Hi, Christine here. Just thought I would do my response video for week one challenge from YouTube Pagans. Looks like an interesting project. I took a little too long. Hopefully, I made the deadline. Anyway, the first question, of course, is how you came to your path, or in this case, how the path kind of found you. I grew up, I've said in other videos that I've grown up in a household that had a lot of mysticism, a lot of people that came from all sorts of walks of life at the time. Of course, this was, I was born in 67, so a long time ago. A lot of Native Americans and stuff like that from when I was very, very young. German family, a lot of the German mysticism had come over from Europe, directly from my parents as well as my grandmother. So, not stuff that's been in the United States for a while and then carried down. I am, a child of parents directly from Germany. So, kind of Catholic, but not church going, anything like that. Spent a lot of time with a lot of exposure to Edgar Casey and Eric von Daniken and all these things. Plus, when I was 12, I had also taken a creative writing class, and the teacher was very much into having us study Greek mythology, which kind of uh, irritated my parents because they thought that that was going to take me away from Christianity. And not that I'd ever been baptized or really been in a church or anything like that beforehand. So, I got some exposure there then, and Clash of the Titans came out, and that interested me more. And of course, Egypt always did, and stuff like that. And it just kind of went on and on like that. And I was doing practicing with spells, having, as a kid, 8 years old, I mean, there was Bewitched, there was stuff like that. But I had one of my good memories was actually with my imaginary friend Sarah, who was showing me how to do spells to grow corn in the backyard. And I had actually successfully done so, and I was pretty pleased with that fact. So, through junior high school, we moved to another city. I was the new kid. So actually, late elementary school, started having some problems with being bullied. I got worse in middle school because what I had thought had been a friend of mine, she'd come over and play and stuff, and oftentimes he'd be playing with her Barbie dolls and stuff, and magic and witchcraft and stuff would come up all the time. And it got around school, and I had kids that tried to set me on fire for wearing a crucifix to school one day in the hallway. I got beat up frequently, I got bullied a lot, and that carried through all the way to high school, to my senior year until prom. When all of a sudden I had gained popularity because a lot of the guys realized, hey, even though she spent the whole time not wearing makeup or anything like that, when I came dressed up for prom, everybody noticed. And so it had girls pretty pissed off. But my high school career, again, because of that one friend in junior high school at 12 years old, had made my entire school miserable. I still was getting beat up and had to have police escort to the bus and stuff like that. Even into my senior year, I went through this constantly. And I tried to delve further into Christianity at that point. I wanted to be part of a church without any understanding of what happens with churches and what happens with different denominations and stuff like that. I always thought that animals had souls. I thought that they communicated with each other. I thought that they had some understanding in their own way of God and that God would take their own image. I basically was kind of looking at animism at the time without realizing that. But I tried to go to different churches and ran into issues like one would let me take communion, and I'd said this in another video. And then, of course, the pastor would say, sure, come, you can take communion and stuff. And then there'd be this 14-year-old boy telling me I can't, and round and round. And it just made no sense to me. It's like an altar to God is an altar to God is an altar to God. What the heck? And so I still tried. I tried very, very hard. I eventually married a Catholic, and I'd been friends with Dr. Malachi Martin from when I was 18 until he passed away. Started with a really long letter that I wrote him, 9 pages, and it followed him all around the world. The TV station forwarded it, and it finally got to him, and the man called me. And I had expectations of what Catholicism was based on him and based on the letters from him and the manuscript he sent me and stuff like that. So I married into a Catholic family, and Malachi at one point had told me that I would not be happy being a nun. I wanted to be a nun. He said, that's not your path. You will not be happy there. I recommend you do not do this. So I still, even married, did not, later on, did not take any classes or anything like that, because the more and more I was learning, especially when I looked at the catechism book, and I'm like, why do I have these? Why do people have to tell me what I have to believe? And that kind of stuck with me. So I'm beyond the marriage classes. I didn't go any further. I tried to study the catechism. I got through maybe a page. It just bored the crap out of me. And I had read the King James Bible, tried to get through the whole thing. I've gone halfway through. I think I'm going to try again, just because religion is interesting to me. Theology is interesting to me, and I don't mean just Christian theology. I mean the whole gamut. But there's only so much time. So, during my marriage, I still had been doing some spell work and stuff like that. And then my best friend at the time had me come and just observe and Samhain ritual that he was doing. And he is a solitary. And it was my first time actually seeing that. And then he handed me The Truth About Witchcraft Today from Scott Cunningham. And when I was reading through that, it's like, holy crap, this has been me all along. Because by this point, yes, I still prayed to Jesus. I had some very strong visions of Christ, but I still had a lot of experiences too, where I had a vision of the one guy that I really, really, really liked. That I didn't know it was him when I saw somebody drowning in the one river in our town. And when he came back from the Gulf War a couple weeks later, he was in military practice and had drowned. in that very river. And it was him. It was the guy I saw. So, I mean, I had a lot of things like that that always happened, but I kind of had avoided, other than the really intense things that I had learned, like banishing and things like that, I kind of avoided spell work until I read that book. And it's like, this is me. Why did I not know this? And so I went and I had an altar in home and stuff in my bedroom. I dedicated myself. I actually had dedicated myself on Saturnalia, the year my daughter was born. And it was a ritual where I had Lorena McKinnett, Mummers Dance, playing. I had just put all the lights on the tree. I'm carrying my sleeping baby around, and I'm just dancing in a circle, and I'm singing along with the music. And I saw this woman in silver through the window. And, you know, I had my first actual vision of the goddess at that point, and it was a very powerful experience for me. And I was home alone with my kid, you know. So I started identifying as Wiccan at that point, and I still was pretty much solitary because there wasn't any exposure that I had to coven or anything like that at that point. During my divorce, that came back to bite me in the butt, even though there had been plenty of books about witchcraft and about Wicca laying around, Silver Ravenwolf, all sorts of other ones. Silver, I had written her and sent her a little angel doll, and she wrote me back. Just, you know, really super nice people, and she helped me. Her exercises in her to ride a silver broomstick were helpful, even though I more identified myself still at this point as maybe a Christian witch. Even though I had dedicated myself, I was in between. I didn't call myself a Christian Wiccan, but I was still just kind of, you know, not really sure where I was going. Her exercises helped me a lot because I was also going through a lot of abuse at that point. So during the divorce, it was a battle of, in Minnesota, it's still legal to have a parent lose their children over their religion. And so he identified as Catholic and changed his mind later after the divorce was done. But he tried to get his family to testify and stuff like that. That, being Wiccan, was a reason for me to lose my kids, that I was going to introduce them to demon worship and, you know, shit like that. So after all that was said and done, and I stood up in court, I'm legally out of the broom closet. I can't get any more out of the broom closet than I am. So there's a pentacle on my car. There's all sorts of stuff. But I think after that, when I was living on my own for the first time ever in my life, and this is 2007, so remember I said earlier my birth date. It had been a long time. I'd never been on my own. I left my parents when I was 26, so it had been a while. And I kind of came into my own. I did go into therapy because I was trying to deal with the abuse, trying to deal with the divorce, everything else. And then I'm working as a nurse besides. But my religion was a real strong point with me. And I've had people tell me before that I have an extremely strong sense of morality, especially when it comes to myself and how I try to act. I mean, yeah, we are human, but the read is something I pay a lot of attention to. The threefold law, I also pay a lot of attention to. And that's just me. And I started coming into my own and did find a coven, you know, that I go to occasionally, and I'm actually taking classes with them again now. Just started new classes. Yesterday was learning about the astrological charts and stuff, and these are things I hadn't touched on before, so it's fascinating. But I ran into them, but I still, you know, I still did my own thing, and this time I was able to do my own thing without judgment, without you know, people telling me what I had to do, and without fear of retribution. And that is so powerful. And I think really that is when I came fully into my pagan path. And I came fully into who and what I am. And I haven't looked back. And while, yeah, sometimes, you know, I still believe, I'm one who believes in multiple pantheons, including the Christian one, but I see them all compartmentalized. And while I follow more native, maybe mixture with Egyptian and Greek, I still, you know, sometimes will grab from others. I've worked with Kali. I have, you know, still prayed to Jesus occasionally, things like that. But I don't follow any particular gods. I prefer to say that I work with gods. I do not work for particular gods. I go where I'm called, essentially. And so basically, I have given names to the two deities that I follow the strongest, and they are my own names, but that doesn't mean that everybody else can't know about it. It's just that's how I talk to them. And that's the Earth Mother and the Sky Father. And so that's the extent of my paganism. That's how my path found me, and I found it. And really, actually, I think my path found me when I was born, but it took trauma, it took a lot of pain, it took a lot of confusion and a lot of searching before I found it. And it had been there all along. So that's it. I look forward to week 2. Hopefully this was helpful to some of you. And especially if you're thinking of coming out of the broom closet, you know, I guess we're having another video for that later, the second week. So I'll have more thoughts then. So blessed be everybody.